Let's get this party started. It's a Monday, and we're going to go 3 episodes back to back. I didn't get a chance to record over the weekend. When I say I didn't get a chance, I just didn't take the time. The reason why, because my family was in town. We got to go to the Padres game. I got to hang out with my big brother, Rob, and I got to sit with my best friend, Will, and just have some phenomenal conversations, which I'm going to be sharing some of them with you. Today is all about a good name. I mean, probably one of the most impactful conversations that I ever had in my entire life, and I've had some really cool ones. It came wrapped in a place and circumstance that I wouldn't have preferred. I was going through a really tough time in my life. I had gone out to Oklahoma, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to open a salon for a Robert Cromie salon. And I was out there. I was going through a lot of things in my relationships and things like that. And I went to go play pool, and it kind of took my mind off things. And I sat with a guy named Cousin Barb. And Cousin Barb said, "What's the most valuable thing that you own?" I said, he said, "My car, my house." You know, I was a young kid and thinking that I was trying to, accumulate things. And he said, "Nope." And I said, "Okay, well, it was my retirement account or whatever it was." And he was like, "Nope." He said, "The most valuable thing that you'll ever own in your entire life is your name." And I was like, I don't know if I believe that one, because I'd like to buy a house, and houses were going through the roof at that time. That's more valuable. But he said, "You know what? If you work on building a good name, that will be the foundation for every other thing that you grow." And at the time, I didn't realize how the gravity of that statement. But now, as a 49-year-old man, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, as a speaker, as a podcaster, I realize that it doesn't matter the product that you have, the offering that you have, the price that you have. If your name is garbage, no one will want it anyway. So today is all about a good name. We go to Proverbs, and so the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, we're going to wisdom. So let's get this party started.
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
That was a mistake again that I made. My audio was off. My soundboard wasn't turned on. Hopefully you give me some grace. Hopefully my name is okay in your book, because if not, you wouldn't give me any grace at all. In this good name, we went to Proverbs 22, and Proverbs 22 is the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. That was on the 22nd, was this message that I got. And it's incredible because, again, Cousin Barb, when he told me this, I would have never, ever even believed him, or even said, like, how can I invest in my name? And my pops would always tell me about character. I never connected it to my name. And he would say that you could take your whole entire life to build your character. You could take 1 second and destroy it. And most of us we've seen this with celebrities. We've seen this with, musicians. We've seen this all over the place, but a lot of times we don't apply it with us. And so what I wanted to do is, for the first time, I was able to run it down and to be able to see what it actually takes to understand, to really build a good name. So in verse 1, I talked about the most valuable thing that you'll ever own, and we've got to understand that. Like, once we get to the gravity of that Cousin Barb in an old pool hall in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the most valuable thing that you'll own, Kelly, is your name. And then he went on to tell me that he had started installing windows, actually started washing windows. Then he went to installing them, and then he went to building the company, or buying the company, or managing, and then buying the company, and then installing glass from all the way from Portland to the East Coast of all the McDonald's from that point. And Cousin Barb was obviously in a really, really good space in his life, but he realized very early on that his name was the most important thing. In verse 2, it talks about respecting people and not positions. And this one is a massive one because my mom would always tell me growing up, don't be a respecter of persons, meaning that it wasn't about what the person did, it's about who the person was. And my pops was huge with this too. My pops would talk the same way to a CEO that he would to a owner of a company, a founder, to a person who was working on the line in that company. And when we have a respect for the people and not the position, that it goes back to what my pops always said. There's one business in the world, one business only, and that's the people business. And if we build the people and allow the people to build the business, everything has the tendency to work out. And so when you can deal with people, when you can love on them, if you want to have a good name, then you'll respect the people and not the positions. So in verse 3, it talks about thinking of the future. And thinking of the future is prudence. Prudence doesn't sound like that cool of a word, but thinking of the future is different. So when you go into any interaction, I tell you this, like the interaction that I had with Wayne Freeman 4 years ago, I did the keynote for Sport Clips, and it was their Sport Clips huddle. I came out, I was walking through the casino. I was at the Mirage, and I stop, and this guy says, "Thank you so much. I really enjoyed what you talked about." And we stopped, and we just made fast friends. And he's a friend to this day. But I didn't realize the impact that Wayne was going to be able to have on my life. And in so many different ways, he introduced me to Paul Long. He introduced me to Rick Burkholder, who was on episode 460 and is the vice president of sports medicine and performance for the Kansas City Chiefs. He trains Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest athletes, if not going down as the greatest athlete that our generation will ever know. And he has direct access to him. And you know what? I had direct access to him because of my friend Wayne. Think of the future. So if you want a good name, that's probably one of them. In verse 4, it talks about it won't work just because it has before. And this is a big one for me because you can apply it to your culture, to your systems, to your productivity, to your innovation, and to your ability to adapt immediately. Just because it worked before doesn't mean it'll work again. And this is where I fell victim. When we were building a company, when we built salons all over the country, sometimes I would have a method and I would be so in love with the method and then I'd manage the people. Well, let's flip it. Manage the system or the process. Manage it. Look at it. But love the people. And when you flip that paradigm, everything changes. The only thing that will continue to work that has worked before, and it always will, is just a good attitude. And so we want to walk into this with humility as much as humanly possible. In verse 5, it talks about having a great vision and protect hope. If you can see the future, but you can protect the hope of that future, that will create a solidified foundation for a good name. In verse 6, it talks about onboarding, and onboarding is probably one of the least talked about things in any company, any organization, or even in relationships. The onboarding process is massive. What are your non-negotiables? Do you talk about them immediately? Do you communicate them to you? Most of the challenges that I deal with when I'm working with CEOs, CFOs, any of the C-suite, and I'm consulting with them on their business, almost every single one of them comes down to communication. And then we go, and then number 2, it's generally because of onboarding. Oh, well, I'm having this challenge. Okay, cool. How did you bring them on board? How did you work them into your company? Well, I told them this and I assumed, no, we assumed. Did you communicate? Did you have that feel? No, I didn't, but they should know that. That's a part of this business. What I could tell you is the onboarding process, when I look and we really break down whether it be a relationship or business, the onboarding process probably one of the most important. Communication, number 1, but a close second is the onboarding. And if you get your onboarding, if you take the time and you step back and you say, what ultimately do I want in a employee or in a team member or even in a relationship? Well, let's set the tone from the very beginning. And this goes to children too. You can't wait until they're 18 years old to start adding some discipline or talk to them about principles, because by that it's too far gone. Raise them up in the way that God would have them to go, and they will not leave. They won't leave that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but here goes the next one in verse 7, verse 26 and 27. Let me see here. Is to be able to create a good name. And think of this. A good name is not just, me in the community, but think about a good name from a business perspective. Let's flip the script here. And if we think about a good name, you want your business to have a good name, you got to understand that the most valuable thing that you'll ever own is your name. Your name. What's synonymous with that name? That you'll respect people and not positions. You'll think of the future, that you'll realize that it won't work just because it has before, and you'll apply that in your culture, your systems, your productivity, your innovation, and your ability to adapt immediately. But the only one thing that will constantly transcend is going to be a good attitude. We got to have great vision, protect that hope, the onboarding. And then the next one is cash flow. And this goes down to communication also. ARs, APs, accounts receivable, accounts payable, right? And then debt, for your people to understand what that is, because most businesses die because of cash flow. Most relationships die because of cash flow. So it's amazing how it transcends in that way, but let's stay on the business side of it. Always leave something on the table in any negotiation, and this is in verse 8, verse 22, and verse 23 of Proverbs 22. I used to always think when I negotiate, I want to get the most out of it, and then I win. Well, what I can tell you is if you constantly leave something on the table, it's amazing what will happen. People will constantly want to come back to the table. So in all negotiations, figure out a way for the other person to win. And when you do that, they won't have any challenge with you in the future. In verse 9, it talks about contributing, being a contributing part of the community. This is a massive one. We learned this with our business, being a part of like music in the park, being a part of, volunteering for haircuts for the homeless, or let's see, cheerleading, whatever. I mean, we were making sure that we were a part, and we were constantly pouring into the community. Then the community wanted to wrap around us as a business. And what I would suggest is with you, whether it be personally or let's stick to the business part of it, if you want to have a good name in your community, contribute to it. In verse 10, it talks about constant, uninhibited communication will break down all walls. We talked about that. The most number one challenge in any business is communication. Number two, generally, is onboarding. We go into verse 11, 24, and 25, and this is love the people, manage the systems. Love the people, manage the systems. But watch this. Most people will manage the people and love the system. And I fell into this, and then I lost people. And so make sure that you stay calm and stay peaceful. Love the people always. Love who they are. Love where they're at. Manage the system, but communicate the system before you ever expect the person to be able to live up to it. In verse 12, it talks about seek to master your lane. We talked about it when we had salons before we sold them. We would talk about this. I would talk about the in and out principle, which is burgers, fries, and shakes. Burgers, fries, shakes. Find out what you're good at. Stick in your lane, seek to master what it is that you do and become that master. My brother is a master at personal injury law. He is the absolute best. I sat with him. He gave me 12 principles, and we're going to be sharing them with you because he'll be the correspondent for law or, personal injury on our podcast. But it was incredible because he has mastered his lane. In verse 13, it says, be diligent. Be as diligent as you possibly can. Just do right work. If you do right work and you're not lazy, you'll have a good name in the community. In verse 14 and 15, it talks about distractions, and just watch out, like shiny stuff. Have discipline. There's going to be distractions, sometimes come as the word opportunities, but to know the difference between the two, we got to seek wisdom, and we got to master our craft. In verse 16, it just over deliver. In verse 17 through 21, seek counsel and know who you serve. Like seek counsel, seek wise counsel, and just know who you serve in your community. And when you do that, makes your name elevated above anything else. In verse 28, respect other organizations and speak well of everyone, or don't speak at all. This was a big thing for my brother, and a big thing that we worked with in our company as often as possible. If a person came in and had bad service somewhere else, we shifted the conversation, and we made sure that we lifted that person up, and we never spoke negatively about any other business ever. In verse 28, respect other organizations and speak well of everyone, or just don't say anything at all. And this goes back to a thing that your mom probably told you. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. And then finally in verse 29, put in the work and become skilled. Put in the work and become skilled, and your name will go high above anything. See, a good name in business is as simple as, watch this, let's run it down for you as we go, as we finish up today. You got to know that it's the most important thing and the most valuable thing. Respect other people and not the positions. Think of the future. It won't work just because it has before, and apply that to your culture, your systems, your productivity, your innovation, your ability to adapt immediately. A great vision and protect hope, onboarding, cash flow, understand the AR, AP, and debt. Always leave something on the table in a negotiation. Be a contributing part of the community. Constant, uninhibited communication will break down all walls. Love the people and manage the system. Seek to master your lane. Be diligent. Watch out for distractions. Over-deliver. Seek counsel. Respect other organizations and speak well of them, or don't speak at all. And put in the work and become skilled at what it is that you do. And that will help you to have a good name. If you haven't, I'm pointing right now. If you're listening to me, there's a book called The Vibe that I did. It's in the link in the bio. It has a lot of this information in it. I would love for you to be able to pick it up. Come to the Vibe Room, July 23rd. I've got a couple of tickets. Reach out to me. It is sold out, but I hold back a couple of tickets for people like yourself that want to come. And I want to give away some tickets. So message me and I'll send them out to you. I want to thank you all for tuning in. It's been another episode of Inchstones, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And this was all about a good name. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to